Welcome to another episode of Search News You Can Use with me, Dr. Marie Haynes. This is a long episode. It's a full brainstorming call. I've been offering these brainstorming calls with people who want to improve their sites, and it's really hard to explain what is in these calls. So Adam, a site owner, a business owner in Australia, he's a psychotherapist, gave me permission to share the entirety of our call. So I really hope you enjoy this. The first 45 minutes or so are me explaining to Adam how Google's algorithms have changed, how AI really determines so much of the search rankings, and in particular about the system called Navboost that I talked about in a video a few weeks ago, where Navboost looks at what users do, what they click on in the search results. And when you understand this, it really should change how we do SEO, how we optimize our sites. So the first 45 minutes or so are me talking about Navboost and Google's algorithms, and the rest of the call we're actually going to be looking at Adam's site and the competitors that he is working against. If you've enjoyed this, my book is out. It's on Amazon. SEO in the Gemini Era should help explain the things that I've been trying to work out in terms of how search has changed. And also there's a course if you really, really want to get into the weeds and be among the first, because I think that SEO, the way that we do it is changing when we understand just how much AI is used by Google. Google says they've been AI first since 2016, and hopefully this book and this course really help you. The course contains exercises that you can go through and prompts that you can use in Gemini and ChatGPT to help brainstorm on improving your site so that it's more likely to be seen by searchers and then subsequently by Google as the best result for their query. I hope you enjoy this episode.
All right, there we go. Okay, so I'll introduce you here, Adam, and maybe I think what I'll do, this is kind of like a little different episode for me. I'll tell our watchers what we're going to be doing here. I've been offering these brainstorming calls for some time now, and it's really hard for me to show the value in them. And so I've been looking for somebody who could actually let me record these. So thank you, Adam. We're going to look at your site. And some of it might be a little painful because I'm going to be critical of some things. But also, I'm excited because I think that with my new understanding of how Google works, I think we have lots of opportunity here. So I don't know, Adam, do you want to maybe just introduce yourself and your website, your business, and we'll take it from there?
Sure, I'm a psychotherapist, have been for, over 20 years. My website's Bayside Psychotherapy. We mostly local, but we do national telehealth sessions as well as face-to-face sessions, psychotherapy, counseling, hypnotherapy, and psychology. So covering, yeah.
Actually, a good question. Do you have to be in Australia for somebody to be your client?
Depends on the therapist, but generally the answer is no. We can do some international. It's all about insurance. And,
right.
In general, no.
So if anybody's interested, we can maybe put they'll have your contact info because they'll know your website. So cool. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Should we tell the story of how we first met, or is that something
I don't
you want to share? We were just saying it's been like 12 years, right? So you were one of my first clients.
Oh,
and I think if it was 12 years ago, you must have been one of my first serious paying clients. And what did we do together? You got into a little bit of trouble, right?
We experienced some pain.
Yeah.
Trying to remove links. This is before the disavow tool, wasn't it?
That's right. So you got a manual action, right? It must have been unnatural links.
Oh yeah, it was unnatural links following some SEO tactics that promised us to be white hat and there'd be no risk. And then here we go, boom. Yep. And then you helped us get that revoked, but then we got penguined twice. So.
Well, that's right. You were one of the sites that was waiting, right? I remember when Gary Ish said, oh, Penguin's going to run in like another few months. and we were waiting and waiting to see if our work was going to help you. And it was like 2 years before Penguin ran. And yeah, so you, like, it's a really good example because your website, it's not like you were trying to do black hat SEO or like trying to manipulate Google. It was the thing that people did at the time, right? Like you hire an SEO agency, and in order for the agency to succeed, they would build links because that's what worked at the time, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I knew virtually nothing about SEO. I just said, here's some money and here's the website. Just don't do anything illegal, dodgy, or unethical, and just don't involve me. I'm not interested. I just want to run my business. And then I got this warning, and then it became devastating. So it's been a blessing.
And then Google went years without, like, they barely gave any manual actions for many years. And then just this year, I had a bunch of people reach out to me with manual actions. They gave a bunch out in March with the March core update at the same time. They did some. And so manual actions have been interesting. Well, I don't want to dwell too much on history because we want to look at your site. So what I want to do in this call is I'm going to babble for a bit about how Google has changed from the days that that link building like that used to work. And then with that knowledge of how Google's changed, we're going to look at your site, and together we'll kind of brainstorm on how we can improve it to hopefully see some improvements. So are you familiar, other than what I wrote in your little document there, with Navboost? Were you familiar with that before I mentioned it? Okay.
Not really.
So for anybody who's watching the video, I did do a video on Navboost just like a few weeks ago. So there's more in there. Although every time I kind of explain it, it gets a little bit more clear because it's such a different concept for people who have been in SEO for a long time to understand that Google actually really heavily uses user engagement. And I actually have a theory that we sort of missed it. They used it for many years, and I think they've learned to not need so much user engagement, which, you know, whether or not that's true, the way that we fix the site or we improve the site should still be the same. So I learned about Navboost in this document it was a testimony from the DOJ versus Google. So the DOJ in the government of the US is suing Google, and it's all about monopolization. It's really, really fascinating. And at first I didn't really pay a lot of attention to it, but then I saw this testimony from Pandu Nayak, who is an engineer at Google. And he basically explains the whole algorithm. And as I read it, like, my jaw was dropping because I made it my career. Like, I started with removing manual actions. And then, of course, people were like, well, what can I do then if I'm not building links? And how do I actually understand Google's algorithms and do things that Google is not going to be unhappy with and still succeed? And so my career for the last decade plus has been trying to understand Google. And when I read this document, I was like, I know nothing. And I think most SEOs are sort of in that place where, like, we have standard practices that we know are good. Like, it's good to have a fast website. It's good to have good structure. Like, there's a lot of things that are good. But a lot of the stuff that we do in the name of SEO, including a lot of our keyword research, a lot of link building, is really stuff that is probably useless today. So this document talks about the system called Navboost. And it turns out that every single query that is searched by a person is stored in this vector database and by Google, and along with the actions that the searcher took. So if I am, searching for a psychotherapist, and I go to Google and I type in I just made my phone go, no, I don't need a psychotherapist today, Google. And I type in, psychotherapy Melbourne. That query gets stored, and then Google watches what I do. So they watch what I click on. They watch so let's say I click on your site, and I'm like, no, that doesn't seem like the one for me. And I go back to the search results, and I click on one of your competitors, and then I never go back to the search results again, that's a pretty good sign that your site didn't satisfy my search, but your competitor's site perhaps did. Now, it's not 100% because clearly, like, maybe I got bored, maybe I was like, oh, that's it. I'm tired of the internet. I'm, but so over the years, after having, trillions, I don't know how many searches have happened since Navboost has been around for a long, long time. Like, we only just learned about it recently. And then the other thing that happened alongside these DOJ trials, which I'm probably going to talk more about this testimony, is that we got access to, I call them the API files. Are you familiar with those at all, Adam? Okay, let me explain them. I wrote a bunch of stuff on my blog about it, so if you're interested, you can do more, and I'll put it in the description for anybody who's watching this video. So these files apparently were available on GitHub for like a couple of years, but somebody found them. I don't know if it was GitHub or somewhere else, and they contain all these different attributes that really clearly relate to search. So there's mentions of PageRank, there's mentions of quality signals, like all sorts of really interesting stuff. And the SEO community kind of went crazy over this, but with good reason, because like we've made it our mission to figure out Google, and then all of a sudden, it's not like we have the whole algorithm because we don't know how the attributes are being used, but to have all these attributes, like there's a ton that we can learn. I actually have a theory that Google allowed the API files to be found because I think the attributes are used differently since March. But let's focus on what we do know. So some of the attributes are about the system called Navboost. And what Navboost does, like I said, it stores every query, and some of the attributes talk about bad clicks, about good clicks, about being the longest click. Now, there's an article that I don't know if you know Cyrus, Shepard, fantastic SEO, really smart guy, and he wrote an article for Moz years ago that talked about 3 patents that Google has, and his conclusion was that it's good if you are the first click. So that's one of our goals, is that when somebody does a search, what they see in the search results, and you can somewhat control that with your meta description, is that's you're trying to get them to click, and so if you have if you're more attractive to the needs of this searcher, then there's a good chance that you'll be the first click. Now, of course, the site that ranks #1 is more likely to be the first click. This is all factored in. And if Google starts noticing that, like, oh, lots of people are skipping past the first few results and clicking on the third one, that's kind of a sign that, like, oh, well, maybe we are not showing them something, that's a signal that can be used. Now, so the first click is one thing. Then the next thing is to be the longest click. And that matters more for some sites than others. Like for some, I don't know how much it matters. It probably matters for your site, because if people are landing on your site and immediately bouncing back to the Google search results, that's a sign that like they weren't at all satisfied. I don't think it's as simple as like, oh, they spent 5 minutes on your competitor's site and 7 minutes on your site, therefore you must be better. They're really looking for signs that like they were somewhat interested in the content. So the first click, the longest click, and then the other one is to be the last click. And I think that's most important for a site like yours, because if I've really had my search satisfied, I've probably gone on to call you or fill out your contact form, or I've booked an appointment, and and then I don't go back to look at another psychotherapist site. I'm committed to yours, and so the thing is, though, that it's not, and this is where it gets confusing. It's not like Google saying, "Oh, you were the longest click more often, therefore we should rank you." What they're doing is they're trying to use all of those signals to make a guess as to whether somebody was satisfied. And that's not easy, because like for some sites, maybe a shorter click means they were satisfied because they got their answer. And like, so it's difficult. So in the DOJ trial, there was this email that they shared where they talked about, this was Google internally talking about Navboost. And they basically said that the teams at Google Search that were not working on Navboost were like super jealous because Navboost was getting all of the wins. And they didn't like that, it turns out, like nobody likes the idea that we're being watched. And like every time I search now, I think like, what did I do to the Google algorithm? Like my searches must mess them up because like this week, I can't tell you all the clients that I've searched for, but it's a variety. Like, and when I was doing penalties, like I would be like, oh, here's the psychotherapist, here's the casino site, here's like all these different travel websites. But really, like every single search is Google's trying to learn from every single search. So so that's Navboost. And I think like we could potentially just stop right there, that understanding that satisfying the user is like one of the most important things that could happen. Right. Then with the March core update of this year, Google told us that they brought new signals into the core algorithm. And they told us that they did some re-architecture work. And I have this theory that because just before that, in February, Google announced Gemini 1.5, which is confusing because it's not the chatbot Gemini, but the language model or the machine learning architecture. They improved it and they made it so that it's more efficient. It's able to handle more things. Well, it turns out that from the DOJ trial, we realized that like most of the core of search is AI. There are multiple systems. I spent the last 2 years trying to learn these and I created a course. I think the whole reason why I created the course was to teach me. So I mean, if anybody's watching this and you're like, oh, I should make a course, like don't do it to make a ton of money, although I'm selling it, but do it to teach yourself. So I learned about these different systems. We're not going to get into them all now because I want to get onto your site. But the three ones that they say are the main AI systems that run search are RankBrain, DeepRank, and RankEmbed BERT. And so these are all machine learning systems, and all of them are trained with user information, with user data. The one other thing I'll say, because it's the question that commonly comes up, is the user data that it uses is, I think it's just from Google search. So they don't really know what happens on your site, although some people think that they do. Rand Fishkin talks a lot about Chrome, that Google probably can use the signals in Chrome. The user agreement, the privacy policy for Google says that they can tell or they can see like whether you've made a purchase. They probably can see if somebody submitted a form on your site. And I like you could see that could be useful if like more people are actually booking appointments with you, then that's a sign that that people like you and trust you and are willing to give their business to you. But the only evidence that I could find is that they actually use the Google search results. So, so good to know. So with all of that in mind, where do we go from here? What I did in your document, so when I do these brainstorming calls, just for people watching, I basically make this big long document with my thoughts on how we can get more people to click, how we can get more people to be satisfied, but it's a guessing game. And so I gave some suggestions. Some of the suggestions I gave are not possible because legality says you can't put testimonials on your site and other things. But maybe there are some things that we can still do. So
sure.
All of that, sorry, you sat through all of that rambling.
No, it's good. I've got COVID, so if I can rest my voice, I'm grateful.
Oh, yeah. Well, gosh, no fair. I was just saying how you're not the only one. I like several times when I've done these calls, there's somebody with COVID. So I hope you're okay. Yeah. Well, okay. So tell me a little bit about your business and what makes it special. Like if I was going to choose, if I was looking for a psychotherapist, and you're in Melbourne, right?
Yeah.
Are you right in Melbourne, or you're not city center, right?
No, we're not city CBD centre, but we're, maybe about 15 minutes,
Okay.
20 minutes by car, fairly inner city, you could say.
I wonder if that impacts people's decisions. Do you feel that it does? Do you think you would get fewer people because you're that far away?
No, we're not that far away, relatively speaking. Relatively speaking, we're not that far. In fact, it's probably a downside to be right in the centre anyway.
True.
No one wants to go there. Parking's impossible. I mean, that's a general.
There's one good thing that we should incorporate somewhere, right? That it is actually, that's something that I would consider if I was seeing a new doctor. I would want to know, okay, parking's easy, especially if I'm struggling with like anxiety or a mental health issue, right?
Yeah. Fair point. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something to just mention, somewhere on the site that, and maybe show a picture of your parking lot of your office, just like it's super easy. You can park here and here's the office. I always have this fear when I go to a new place because I always get lost all the time. Anybody who's been with me at a conference knows, like I'm always lost all the time. So this is, I'll tell you this. We're going to talk about vectors search in a minute. And I think that a lot of what Google does when they're trying to match the user intent with content is actually consider the emotions and the fears of the person who's searching. So that's a minor one, can I park? But I think it's a benefit that you have. Okay, so what else? Like why would I choose your clinic over the other options that I have?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're all qualified. We all have experience. Every therapist offers something a little bit unique, in their style, their approach, their special interests. So for example, if it's certain compulsive behaviors that they're concerned about, or like compulsive hair pulling as an example, or, a certain addiction, they might be able to find someone appropriate on our site that's got the experience that they feel, we might be of benefit to for them. But yeah,
say that you specialize in a particular, this type of ailment. Is that something that you're allowed to say?
No, you can't use the word specialize. I know it's
the rules.
Okay. But we can have special interests and experience in working with certain ailments, which we do, and we mention those. We have conditions pages for the areas that we focus on. It's probably listed at 40. But
well, and that could be something where, like, if you tend to see more people with, or have more success, I don't know if success is the right word, but more experience perhaps with certain conditions, then those are things that we want to emphasize more. So we really want to figure out how we can make the searcher say, well, like, there's these guys, there's Bayside, like, oh, Bayside psychotherapy is the one that I want, and that's a really hard thing to do. How would you do that? I'm wondering, tell me what else, like what do people say when they come to you? Like, what are some of the great things that they like about you? Your staff, your what?
And not our staff. A lot of it's automated. They connect with the therapist. I think that's the bottom line, really. It's the therapy relationship that matters more than the technique. Methodology.
So what if we had words that said something like relationship is important to us? Like how, so we really want to, and I think that that's the most important thing, that if I was considering seeing a therapist, everybody's qualified, everybody's got degrees, but what matters to me is that, like, I'm going to get along with you, that I'm going to, I said in your document that I'm going to enjoy the therapy, which I guess not everybody enjoys. I mean, therapy is difficult, right?
Yeah. I mean, some sessions are lighter than others, but yeah, we certainly wouldn't say promote it as an entertaining
Yes.
venture. No.
Yes, we'll make you laugh. No, but there's got to be a way that, so that's what we want to kind of get across, is that that you're welcoming, that that you are people that enjoys the wrong word, but that like I will feel comfortable with. Tell me, like, there's got to be a better way to express this.
Yeah, it's tricky because, at the same time, we don't want to collude with their symptoms. So we don't, if, in other words, we because a complaint often comes, we get complaints all the time from other therapists or whatever. But often it's that they just talked, or they just listened and they were very nice. So we also need to confront and challenge them.
Yes. Yeah.
I think they want that as well. They don't just want someone that's going to be like a nice grandfather or grandmother or, next door neighbor or someone friendly. They want someone that's empathic and that does get them but knows when and how to challenge. Yeah.
How do we communicate that? One of the things that I think that we can do when we're finished this call is we're going to have the transcript for the call, and we probably can ask Gemini or ChatGPT to say, Adam and I were struggling on how to word this. Can you give us some ideas? And then we'll see what comes out of that. Let me talk a little bit about vector search. Because this is fascinating. And I think that it was when I grasped the idea of vector search that all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. And this was even before I saw the DOJ documents. And I think it will change a lot of people's understanding of how to create content, whether it's a service page, whether it's like informational content or what. So for vectors, vector is basically a way to take words on a page and turn them into numbers. And the way that they do it is by using different, I don't know if attributes is the right word, but let's use like this really simple example that lots of people use, is if I took the word king and I said, well, there's certain attributes of a king. A king is 100% likely to be royalty. And a king is 100% likely to be male. And then I took the word man, and excluding, the obvious discussions that are around gender right now, there's good likelihood that, it's very close to 100% that if I say man, I'm talking about male. But a man is very unlikely to be royalty. Like I don't know what percentage of the men in the world are actually royalty. It's very small. Okay, so if I convert those into vectors, and we're just talking about like a two-dimensional space right now, that it's got a dimension of royalty and it's got a dimension of gender. You can actually do math with those, where I can say take the vector for king, subtract the vector for man, add the vector for woman, and you end up where?
Right.
You end up at queen, which is like, blew my mind when I saw this, because the relationship between words, he actually translated into numbers.
So you would extrapolate that per site, I guess.
Yeah, so that's two dimensions. Now, a vector, we know that Google has, every website has a vector. Now, we don't know exactly what dimensions are in those vectors. I think that it's the metadata that Google can extract from websites. So prior to March, and maybe still today, if my theory is not right, this vector for every website would have the things that are important to ranking. So it would have like the title tag of the page. It would have the topic of the page. It would have the entities in the page. So in your case, Bayside Therapy, psychotherapy is an entity, you're an entity, your address is an entity, like all of those things are in your vector for that page. So all of those, your website is like implanted somewhere in this vector space. Well, it turns out in the DOJ documents, they talk about rank embed BERT. Have you heard of BERT? BERT?
No.
Oh, and you wouldn't, because you're not in an SEO. So BERT, Google announced BERT in 2019, and they said that it helped them understand searches better than before. And BERT actually is a language model. Now, when that came out, I didn't know what a language model was. Today, we know, if you're familiar at all with ChatGPT or with Gemini, like they're a language model. Let's talk about ChatGPT or GPT. Is a language model that's been trained on basically by reading like a ton of text. So it reads, it's seen, it was called the Common Crawl, which is the majority of the publicly available sites on the internet, on Wikipedia, on a bunch of books as well. And so it's kind of like, if I had shown you all of that information, you would have these concepts, like you would have some memory of what was there. You'd have like a concept of all of the stuff that we're essentially language models, right? Like we're made up of all of the stuff that we've learned in our lives.
Yeah.
And so what I'm doing right now is I'm explaining these concepts. Like, it's not like I have it written down in my head somewhere. I'm connecting all of the knowledge that I have and then coming out with, I'm making predictions on what to say. Well, that's how a language model works. That's how GPT works, is that if I say the cat sat on the, it's seen enough words to know that mat is probably a likely word, you know, to finish that sentence. So that's a language model. Well, BERT is a language model, and Google has a version of BERT that is just for ranking. It's meant for ranking. So instead of predicting the next word to say at the end of a sentence, it's actually predicting, well, I think it can do two things. It helps Google predict rankings, to predict what is likely to be good to show the user. It can also predict answers as well. I have a whole bunch in my course about, it's really fascinating how BERT learned by masking. Again, if I say the cat sat on the, they showed BERT a bunch of examples, and when it gets it wrong, then they fine tune it by saying, no, this was the right answer. And what it is just a bunch of math. It's like a bunch of calculus that they do to try to make this prediction, to have the least amount of error, so that when they're corrected and they can say, oh, you know, we were pretty accurate with this. But then when you fine tune it and say, well, actually, like, this is the correct answer that we wanted to see, then it figures out how to do the math differently. And it changes the weights in its calculations. And so all of this complicated stuff is to say that your website is a vector that can get implanted in this space. And when somebody does a query, so when I'm searching for psychotherapy in Melbourne, that query, Google's doing math to try to figure out which website is closest in similarity to the query. Makes sense?
Yeah.
So that is, I mean, we can do a ton of stuff with just understanding language in that way. Because, and for a while, you know, SEOs, when we first started doing SEO, like, it was super important to have keywords on pages. And that's why some of your pages have remnants of old style SEO, where we would write the words psychotherapy in Melbourne, like we would write it repeatedly, because we needed to show that it was similar, you know, that there was a similarity. Then Google years ago started doing something called query expansion. And that's where they would say, well, you know, if somebody searches for a psychotherapist, then there are other words that are potentially connected. So like a website that also talks about hypnotherapy might be connected, or, you know, other words that are similar. And that's why you'll see, I think, again, Cyrus Shepard had a really great article years ago on Moz talking about how, you know, don't just put your keywords on the page, put synonyms of the keywords. And I vaguely remember us working to try to do that. with some of your pages. Perhaps, I can't remember now, but we were like, well, we've used this word a bunch of times. Now let's use this one that's closely related. And then, you know, we were trying to write words to look good for the search engine. And then query expansion. So what that would do is like say, okay, well, we want content that doesn't just match these keywords, also matches these related words.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now they don't even need query expansion because they have language models. And if I was to go to ChatGPT or to Gemini and I was to ask, like, tell me the things that I would want to see on a website if I typed in psychotherapy in Melbourne, like it would just do it because of it. The math is just, I don't know how to describe it, but it's all because of the vector math. They just got better and better and better at figuring out what's connected. And then it learns as well from training. Some of what the quality raters do is helps with that. We won't get into all that today. So we know that like we want to be close to this vector of the search. I think that the vector also includes the person's emotions. It includes everything related to intent, and emotions are important for your queries, not so much for other, you know, accounting websites, maybe not well, maybe because maybe you don't want to be frustrated. I don't know. But there was a video a few years ago by Frederic Dubut, who was worked on search at Bing. And he said SEOs are going to need to change from keyword research to intent research.
Mm-hmm.
What we can do is understand the intent of our audience. And so who understands the intent of your audience better like than you, right? Because you have dealt with clients, you know what brings them to your office, you know what like brings them to actually go searching for therapy. So you have this insight that I don't have because I'm not a psychotherapist. So this is where I think after this conversation, you know, you'll have the transcript for it. This is going to be like some of your homework is to really, really start thinking about particular clients, even, you know, what drove them to come. One of the things that I think would be great to do is, again, I don't know if you're allowed to, but I mean, you're not putting it anywhere, is take your emails, your contact form submissions. How do people, when somebody contacts you, do you get an email from them? Yeah.
If they use the contact form. Otherwise, if they ring, we don't. Yeah, but it depends on the method. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So at least you have, like, if you have contact forms, you can. I just saw a guy on Twitter, Gagan Gotra, I think is his name. He did this for one of his clients where he took all of their contact form submissions and then put that into Gemini. The best place to do it is in AI Studio. If you can't find it, if you want to do this, like just contact me, I'll help you through it. But and you can ask AI Studio, make a list of the common concerns of my customers. Tell me, why do people reach out to me? What are they worried about? What do they want to accomplish? And some of it might be simple, like it might be, oh, you get a lot of people with this one particular type of anxiety or like whatever. But what I really want to know is what are their concerns and their fears? And you're going to have like, if it was me, I'd have this long conversation with the language model that just talk about like, how can I really get in the shoes of somebody who has done a search and has like is going to end up on my website? So say you do this and Gemini comes out with like, you know, people are concerned about parking. People are concerned about, I'm just using that because that's the example. What do you think people, like, you tell me, what do you think the average person is concerned about when they're booking with you?
I mean, there's multi-layers to that question. The conscious layer is, can you help me? Are you the right fit? Which is an impossible, no one can answer that in advance anyway, but we do our best, for each person. So, but underneath that layer is there'd be desires and fears that they're not even aware of.
Mhm.
So it's where our job comes in, yes, where we align with Google, with what you're saying, I think, in a way of trying to find the intent. But a lot of people don't know what they want. So,
Yeah.
and what they're really frightened of.
Do you think do you get a lot of people that have never had therapy before that are like worried about what it's going to look like?
Less and less, actually, over the years. Many have, it's not their first rodeo when they come in, but I prefer it when they're new, but that doesn't really bother me.
So those people who have had other experiences, do they come to you because they didn't enjoy, or they had a bad experience with another therapist?
Well, certainly sometimes that's the case, quite often, but other times they feel they got benefit, but they hit a point where it just was becoming circular, or, or whatever, or, maybe the therapist retired or got sick or whatever,
Okay. Yeah.
These are not moved doors.
So what I'm hearing then is, so what I'm trying to get at is, if we believe that Google is trying to predict which website is likely to be helpful to this person, and if I'm right in saying that Google understands the intent and the fears and the worries of this person, how do they do that? Some of it is from Reddit, which is wild. So I don't know if you saw that a while back, Google made a deal with Reddit for $60 million. And now ever since then, we've been seeing Reddit like really rank for a lot of search queries. And I think that the main reason why they did this is because they can learn about topics. Like they can understand the semantics of language from looking at the web to say like what's related to psychotherapy. But to understand the fears and the concerns of people, they can see from the Reddit conversations, like real people are like, yeah, I saw this new therapist and he was great. Or I saw this one and I thought that she didn't listen to me, or like, so one of the things that I think would be really good to do, I'm doing this for another client right now, is to look at all of the Reddit posts that are ranking for queries that you have. Do you see a lot of Reddit in Australia that's ranking above you? Have you seen that?
But I haven't done a deep search.
Yeah, you might not as much because we're not. I think that Google does this to help them with their AI overviews, that they can really understand intent, and you don't have AI overviews in Australia yet. We're seeing like I say I'm in Canada, so we don't have AI overviews yet either, but in the US there's a lot of Indian sites that are ranking and nobody can figure out why, and I actually think it's because that's probably where we're going to see more AI overviews next, is India. Anyways, I'm rambling, but what I want to say is, if you can look for Reddit discussions that are related to your topics, then that can help you understand what the fears and the concerns are for people. And then your goal on your website is to somehow address those or alleviate those in ways that you're legally allowed to do, which is really difficult to get that language right. Let me tell you about, I worked with a website that sold health supplements. And I got this idea. Actually, I'll tell you how I got the idea. I was at PubCon conference. And this is where I started hearing about vectors and blowing my mind about like king minus man plus woman equals queen, and realizing, whoa, everything's connected. Like then later on I went off and read, I didn't get all the way through it, but Einstein's theory of relativity, and like the whole world is connected. So if you start understanding the math behind things, like it really is mind blowing. And so I was talking to my friend Jane at the conference about this theory, and she's like, oh, look, there's Gary Ish from Google. She's like, you should ask him. And I'm like, I can't go ask him about like this theory that just popped into my head right now. And she grabs Gary, says, Gary, Marie has a question for you. So I asked him, I said, should I learn about vector embeddings? And he paused and he was like, that's a good question. He said, you should, but not because it'll help you in search, just because they're interesting. Then the next day, Gary gave his keynote, and 3 times he mentioned my question, that how interesting it was to understand about vectors. And he said, really, what you need to do is just write like you would to a human. And then, understanding the vectors is the same as just understanding your audience. Essentially. I'm putting words in his mouth. It wasn't exactly like that, but that was my understanding. But I didn't really believe him that I couldn't do anything with it. So I left that session and I sat down in an empty room and started talking to ChatGPT about this theory. And I took some of my content and said, well, if I can really understand what's important to the searcher and then make sure that that is like those concepts are expressed in my content, it should look better to vector search. And so it should perform better. So I updated my page with and it took a while to figure out exactly what we're trying to figure out here, and I updated my page, and within 5 hours, it had jumped up multiple positions to rank relatively well. Now, some of that could just be that it got a freshness boost. There's a whole, we could talk about freshness, but I tried it again with this health client then. So I went to this client I was working with. I was like, can I try optimizing some of your content? And they had this page on CBD oil. And we did the same thing. I asked them, what do you think is in their mind, when they're searching for CBD oil? And then I also asked ChatGPT and Gemini, let's get in the shoes of the person who does this search. Give me 3 things that are really important to them. And I think there were things like, is it safe? Is it going to work? And is it effective? Well, is it going to work? There was something else. So then we rewrote the content. And the first paragraph addressed all of those questions. So it was, CBD oil is safe. Research has shown that, it's effective for blah, blah, blah. And we basically gave an answer to each of the questions that was relevant to intent. And sure enough, within just a few hours, this page shot up and started ranking for CBD oil. It was on page 3 or something, and it jumped up to somewhere on page 1. So, which is pretty wild for CBD oil, Now there's way more to that. And actually that page, eventually it stayed there for a while. And with the next core update, it dropped. And my reasoning is that the core updates take into account user activity. And so it's one thing to look good for search engines, but ultimately we need to look good to your searchers.
Humans.
Yeah. So let me pause there. Do you have any questions after I?
Well, it's fascinating.
Isn't it? It's really interesting. So then I took this information. I'm like, what do I do with it? If I can really help rank these keywords. But the thing is, it takes a lot of time. It's not like I can just go do this and that, And so that's why I was like, okay, I think I need to make a course or write a book or something. And it was 2 years of, well, it wasn't 2 years since I learned the vector thing, but I've been working for 2 years on trying to understand these things. And now I've just taken on a bunch of clients to actually put it into action, and we'll see if we're going to have success. I'm thinking what we should do is actually look at your site. And now that we've had all that discussion, let me just pull it up here. And what I did here is I'm using You Search From, which will allow me to search as if I'm in Australia. It won't be exactly the same, but I wanted to look first at these local results, because I would imagine that a lot of your business comes from or could come from maps, and you're not in there for several pages. Have you worked at all on your Google business profile? Or okay.
Every time we do it, we do something and it makes it worse.
Oh no. Okay. And I'm not a local SEO, but I really think that these things that we're talking about apply to the maps listings as well. What kind of things have you done that made it worse?
I mean, we've done, I think we've been relevant. We've put in content that's fresh, relevant, try to be helpful. We've built citations to, reputable, I thought, like Yellow Pages and other directories. It just seems to keep dropping. I don't know why.
I have a theory about local pages, which is not something that we can fix with SEO. There was a while back, we were seeing that Google was only showing websites when they were open, which a lot of SEOs were not happy with, because they'd run their rank checkers, and if they ran them at nighttime, their business wouldn't appear anywhere. And I'm like, well, it totally makes sense to me, because like for most queries, if I'm looking for a local business, I want them to be open. And so anyways, I think that Google can use the information from Android phones and also from web searches, like to see, does somebody request directions? They can tell, like if I do this search and then I go to the business, and that they know that, because like you can see a lot of the times the little chart that says busy now, or so they know what businesses people go to. So I really think for maps, the key for ranking, now people who are local SEOs will probably have all sorts of ideas that conflict with mine. That's the problem with SEO, right? We just have all these theories and don't necessarily know who's right. But I think that a huge component of ranking in here is to actually be the websites that the businesses that people choose from here, which means how do you fix that? I do think there's other factors, like getting some more reviews, but like it must be hard for you to get reviews. Can you get reviews? You have a few.
No, we can't indirectly or directly solicit reviews.
You can't solicit them.
No.
Yeah. I wonder, it would be interesting to, if we had more time to like go through the reviews that these guys are getting. Tell me about these sites. Like, is this a well-known business?
Which one?
The Melbourne Center of Psychotherapy.
I've never heard of it. But
okay. I think I'm going to skip past the local things, because I have all sorts of ideas here. But and here they are, and you haven't heard of them, so they're ranking #1 organically. Then we've got these guys, and then we've got you. Okay, so I'll just click on. Okay, so you don't know these guys.
Never heard of them.
No, that's interesting. Okay. And so we're just going to be completely guessing here. What we're trying to figure out is, why does Google think that this is the website that people are most likely to want and to connect with? And so I had a few thoughts, again, thinking about vector search. Okay, so they say they offer approaches that are tailored to suit your needs. That kind of meets one of the needs. They talk about how they provide these things, people who are struggling with a wide variety of mental health issues. This is the part that I thought was really interesting. Designed for your comfort and well-being. We're located in a beautiful 2-story terrace in South Melbourne.
Okay.
So now, with all that we've talked about, with like really getting in the shoes of the searcher, and I think that like comfort is something that's probably very important. Not necessarily like the chairs are comfortable, but I feel comfortable when I'm there.
It is important.
Yeah. Even if it's a difficult process, like I still want to feel comfortable and I want to feel safe.
Yes, yes.
So somehow I would like to see the words on your website indicate that it's a comfortable and safe place. If you were another type of business and you were allowed to, I'd love to see a testimonial of a client saying, I felt comfortable, I felt safe, but we can't do that. And then it says again, your sessions of therapy will be conducted in a peaceful, they have missed out in a peaceful environment where you're nurtured and respected. I think this is why this page is ranking here. That it's exhibiting the things that people are fearful about.
Right. Feeling unsafe, uncomfortable, perhaps. Yeah.
So however you change your wording on your website, I think that's like above the fold, like really easy for people to see, just make it really obvious that they're comfortable, they're safe. We can talk more about like, different wording. If you want to come up with some wording and send it to me, I'm happy to give you my thoughts on like whether that. And actually what we could do is, again, use ChatGPT or Gemini to ask what, is emotions the right word? Like, I feel like there's a better word, but like, what does this text evoke? Does this text evoke comfort? Would this text help a potential searcher feel like this is a safe place? Could it be rewritten in a way? You just have to be careful, because when we use language models, it's so super obvious that the language models are like writing stuff. So you don't want to like take their examples exactly, but you can take inspiration from them. Like sometimes it might say, oh, you could use the word this, and then that would help inform what you write. I liked that they had like a picture of the place. I really think everybody who comes to this website or to your website, they're thinking, is this the place for me? Like, is this the place that can help me? The other word or concept that I'd like to get across right at the beginning is, again, I don't know if you're allowed to, but somehow that it's effective. That, and I know like not all therapy is effective. Can you think of how you could word that? Like, how would you like help me feel better that you could help me?
Yeah, look, it's tricky because we have compliance issues with that sort of wording, and also we don't know in advance if we can with anyone. That's the reality. A lot of it's a grey area. So, I mean, we'd say, and we do say, that we endeavour to provide.
There we go.
Best service. We endeavour to be helpful. We endeavour to get them the best outcome possible.
I think that's your wording right there.
Mm.
This is often how we get the wording, is you just tell me, like when you're writing it, pretend that I'm, you're telling me what. So instead of thinking at all about search engines, we are thinking of the intent that we're trying to meet. And then how would you tell a human that has this fear that, I'm going to say, like, I think my worry would be if I have not been to therapy, that my worries are that I'm not going to like it, which again, I know you can't say you're going to love this, but I think again, that word endeavor is good. We endeavor to make every appointment safe, comfortable. Yeah. We have the experience to be effective. And I think you can even say, I think a lot of text can be good if it actually tells both sides of the story, where you can say, not all, you kind of said it to me, something about like, we're not always, there was a way you said it that like, it's not
what did
always,
I say?
Yeah. We'll have to go back in the recording. You said something there about like, it's not always effective, but you didn't say it in that way. So even though you're always trying and you're moving towards that goal, there's no guarantees, basically.
There's never any guarantees with any psychological therapy.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Anyone that tries that is fraudulent, really. I mean, we can use statistics and all sorts of things, but I would never publish them because it's irrelevant really to the next person. Even if 100 people before them got a good outcome, if they don't get a good outcome, that's just going to make them feel ashamed and self-hateful. There's no value to them.
Mm-hmm.
So
I just thought of something else. I have this analogy of the librarian. When we do search, it's like we're going to a library, and the librarian comes to us and says, "Oh, you're looking for psychotherapists in Melbourne. Here's a book, or here's a business that's really good at this. And here's a business." Often search will give us multiple types of businesses. They don't want to show the same, resource. If their statistics show that, like, if people are looking for this type of therapy, they tend to choose this website, and they tend not to choose your website, well, then Google's going to show the first one. But let's say that people come to you because you do a particular type of therapy. I think that's probably the case, right? Like, you have a specialty. I was fascinated with tell me about the type of therapy that you do.
Oh, it will take up too much of the call, I think. I do psychoanalytic psychotherapy, so from a Lacanian perspective, which is it's about language and schema therapy as well.
Mm-hmm. It's called schema therapy. Sounds like SEO therapy. Schema, so it's about language. It's about, like, the words that we speak.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting.
Or more precisely, one might say the words that speak us. But we think we're in control of language, but they speak through our unconscious, and that insist and that break through the repression barrier, and that come out in a way that surprises us sometimes. Slips of the tongue, intrusive thoughts. That's the language we're interested in. Yeah, getting at their unconscious.
Okay, so when I was going through your bio, and I didn't know what that type of therapy was, and so I Googled it and, like, read the Wikipedia page, and I still didn't understand what it was. So I think that something that could really help you is a video of you talking about, like, what you just said there. Just like 5 minutes of I can't remember what it's called. It begins with L.
Lacanian. Yeah.
Laconian, yeah. And here's what it is, and it's talk about the language. And so that way there's something that differentiates you, because otherwise, like, all of these websites are just, okay, they've got licensed therapists, and how do I know which one to choose, other than, like, looking at the pictures and going, I'd like to talk to that person, like, so where there's an area where you excel, even if you're not, like, always 100% effective, but if you're like, look, I do this type of therapy, I understand it, I've been doing it for 20 years, then that's what you want to promote on your website. Okay, so you get what I'm saying there, is that I'll tell you the story of I did one of these calls with a rehab center. And when we did this analysis where we looked at all the competitors that were ranking ahead of them, it was super obvious that the competitors were more compassionate than them. Their website kind of read like, if you're struggling with alcohol, alcohol's bad. Here's all the reasons why you shouldn't drink. And, like, it really induced guilt rather than the feeling that the person wants to feel is like, I want to feel welcome. I want to feel compassion. And so they changed a bunch of their wording and saw big improvements. Mind you, they were already starting to see improvements, so I can't say that it was the wording change that did it. But they, with March Core Update, they did see nice improvements. The other thing that I noticed about this website is immediately there was a picture of the director, and she looks like a nice person. She looks like somebody I would love to sit down and chat with, and that's important, So one of the things I recommended to you is that you move your therapists up higher on the page, because I think that that's one of the most important things to people, is that I know you can't tell a lot by looks, but people do, right? We look at people and go, well, look, if I'm going to be sharing my life with you, my deepest worries and concerns, I want to feel like I can trust you. So let's see. And then they talk again about just respect for people, warm and nurturing environment. I really think that this is why this page is ranking above you. And so speaking to, you really want the person to feel. I often, for other websites, I'll talk about dopamine. That is not, I don't think dopamine's the neurotransmitter I'm going for here. But for some websites, you want them to learn something, like you want them to go, oh, I didn't know that, you know, and you basically want to make them feel good. So, so yeah. And then let's see here. All right, well, let's move on here. We'll move to the next one. I wouldn't worry about being in the people also ask. These rarely are converting their information queries. And so I think sometimes SEOs will like there's things you can do to get in the people also ask, really just making sure that you have a good answer. This is BERT is what figures out this, but I don't think you should be aiming for that. So let's look, do you know these guys? Dynamic psychotherapy?
Not really. I've seen them pop up a few times. Yeah.
Which is actually encouraging, because if you said, oh yeah, they're known as like the best in the city or whatever, like then I'd be worried. But if they're just, you know, similar to you, then you should be able to outrank them. I thought this was interesting. Like it's a quote, but it's hopeful. It speaks to, again, that fear. I think I would imagine that a lot of people that come to see you like wish that they could change what's happened to their life, you know, like, so this is just kind of giving hope that you can change. So what I would take from this, because the only thing that's above the fold, and so either tons of people go to this clinic, or there's something about this wording that, that Google likes or has predicted is people are going to like. And I think that, not that you have to have like an inspirational quote, but you want to get across that, like, we understand your pain and we're going to work with you to help you. And I can't promise that you're going to help them, but that's the goal, right? Our goal is to work with you to change things. Yeah, and then they talk again, like their mission is to help people not only achieve symptom relief, but also attain transformational change. So the concept that I'm getting from this site is change. And I think that's probably one of the needs of your audience as well, is that they want change in their life.
Yeah, absolutely.
That. Like, how would you, if I came to you and I'm like, Adam, I need your help, something's got to change, what would you say to me? Yeah,
what do you want to change?
Oh, I want to be not so busy. I don't know what.
No, because it's not a deflect. My response wasn't to deflect your question, but really the premise, see, this is the difficulty with all of this. We know as therapists that all the skill in the world isn't going to make an iota of difference if the person doesn't really want to change, and they make the change themselves. They don't need to know how to do that. Obviously, if they knew, they wouldn't come to a therapist, but they need to really want to enough. Yeah. So part of it is sort of motivational work, but then it's really finding out what they need to change, and it's a collaborative process. So I don't know how they're going to change, but we've got the tools to help them figure that out. And that's... You
just wrote it.
Okay.
That's like almost perfect, obviously like a little bit shorter, but like I think you can take what you just said to me there and put that in a paragraph to say, like, what I heard from you is if you have the desire and motivation to change, it's our skill is in getting that out of you and working with you to affect that change, you know? So whatever you write on your page, the goal is to make me feel like there's a good chance that when I talk to you, there's going to be change, that I'm going to have transformation, that I'm not going to feel like junk anymore. Obviously, I'm not going to write it that way, but
no.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. To be worded role. But
Here's what they say: we view therapy as a collaborative partnership. I think you use that word as well, and I would like to put that on your page as well. And that they work at your optimum level. That's interesting. I bet you that's one of the fears, is that it's going to be too much. So there's probably a way that you could word that, again, how you would tell me that, like, you work through it at the right pace, or, you know, at the pace that's comfortable for me, or that you're not going to push me.
no.
Yeah, you know
No.
how to properly word that. And then compassion, again.
Yeah.
Interesting, but challenging way. I actually like that. I think.
Yeah, me too. It's a blend, isn't it, of empathy and confrontation.
Because I don't think anybody expects that I'm going to go lay on a couch and you're going to say some magic words and all of a sudden I'm better. Like,
Be surprised.
oh yeah, do people do think that? Can you say the magic words?
I'm off duty, but
but I like that. I think that that's good to have, in some sense. Obviously, you don't want to copy what they have, but what they're saying there, that we're compassionate, but there's going to be some challenges, you know. That encourages me. And then to help you achieve your goals. So this paragraph is like, this is very well written, that they're really speaking to the needs. I also think, like, I don't know if this is just a stock photography, but having pictures of the office helps. Like, I can picture myself sitting there and having a conversation with you, you know, like, I think that looks like a comfortable place. So yeah. Okay. And then latest scientific research. Okay. That might be important to some people. I think you talked about that. I think. Okay. We won't go through all of this. I did like, again, that they've got their therapists there, and then you can, I bet you a lot of people click through to see all of the therapists. One of the sites that I looked at had, under the names of the therapists, it had like the types of patients that they tend to see. I think it was like adults, marriage counseling, you know, like just a little bit of a sense, so that I think people probably go through this list and go like, yeah, I could see myself talking to him, or I think she's the one that is going to help me. So, okay. Well, let's move on to your site, because we'll be here all day otherwise. Okay. You changed your site since we worked together, right? I think it's.
What did I change? I changed the couples counseling page.
Oh, I thought the design was different. I remember it being purple.
Oh, no, it used to be when you first looked at the site.
Yeah.
But no, not in the last month.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about like a decade ago. It was, I don't know how I remember it was purple. So, right. And this is always the hard part, because I'm always way more critical on the site that I'm reviewing, and some of the stuff I say may not matter, and I might say some stuff that kind of hurts a little bit. So you can take what you want from it, and if you don't like what I say, that's totally fine. So my thought was, I do get this, but I felt that it was just it wasn't the right tone for me. And so now that we've had this conversation about what's important to people, I think that we could come up with something that's better in terms of, I don't know what though, like, is there anything that's jumping to mind for you in terms of like because this is what you want to be known for. You really want to like give people hope with this first line. So not hope that like, oh great, I got to go do some work because I need fixing up, but rather like something about transformation or hope, or you can't say success, but collaborative. I think I put something in your document there. I can't remember. I had a few.
You did. Find it. I know what you mean.
Okay. So this, so basically what I'm saying is this first thing here really needs to speak to the needs and the desires of the person who's coming here. And I think those needs and desires are transformation. I like the collaborative word.
You put, our psychotherapists would love to work with you to help you improve and regain your life.
Yeah.
I mean,
like
we used to have, we changed this H1 from take back control and enjoy life again.
Oh, okay. You
That
changed
used
it from, yeah. I
Yeah.
like enjoy life. I would imagine that that's probably the number one concern for most people that come to see you is they come to see you because they're not enjoying life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would put something about enjoying life back in there.
Yeah.
Your main heading needs to like give them hope. Then this next part, I mean, we know why it's there. This is to have keywords on the page. Although, I mean, you do want to tell them that this is what you do. Is hypnotherapy something that is like, do the other therapists do that, or is that something that's a specialty of yours?
No, look, hypnotherapy is what about 5 of us do, but I don't do that anymore.
I mean, the other clinics, though, like the 2 that we looked at, are they likely to also do hypnotherapy?
No, actually, no.
Okay.
No. Those ones look like they only do psychology and, / counseling.
Yeah. So I actually might keep these words here. At first, I was like, they seem like they're there for SEO, but I actually think they do tell people that you do counseling, you do hypnotherapy. Yeah, I think you should have some stuff on hypnotherapy on your homepage, because that's one of your unique selling points. That, well, not unique. I mean, there's other people that do hypnotherapy, but it's something that if hypnotherapy is likely to help this person, then there's a good chance that Google is going to recognize that intent, and so they want, although Google probably knows that you're connected with the topic of hypnotherapy.
Oh, we wrote it on the homepage a bit.
Yeah. So one of the things that we won't have time to get into, and I didn't put this in your document, but one of the things that I've really been thinking about is topical authority. And there's all sorts of, like, black hats really like abusing the idea of topical authority. And there's ways you can like use the semantics and create all this cluster of articles that look really relevant to hypnotherapy so that you're more associated with that topic. My theory is that you want to have a cluster of helpful content, helpful in the sense that it's not just information that already exists on the web, but it's something that people read that they wouldn't be able to get that anywhere else. I think you already have that, though, right? You have like a whole set of resources on hypnotherapy. Right. Yeah, I think we worked on that years ago. So anyways, that's something to think about potentially, is that publishing new information on hypnotherapy. And I know you're probably limited on what you can publish on new research. Are there limitations there? Like, or are you able to say like, oh, this new research came out that you can say that?
We can say anything that we can back up.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't put this in your document, but there's freshness is huge. So if you can be like every couple months or so publishing something about new research, or even more frequently on hypnotherapy, that'll help improve your topical authority for hypnotherapy. So then if that's something that people are interested in, they don't even necessarily have to type in the search term hypnotherapy. Maybe they've searched for a particular condition and therapist, and I believe that the vector modeling can connect those things, can be like, oh, well, you have this condition, a hypnotherapist might be one of the resources that we recommend. So So publishing fresh information on these topics and counseling and like all these other things is good to do. Now, I thought.
But
Yes,
when you say it's important to do you mean like if we put that in a blog post, that's as effective as putting it on the homepage or another page, or does it?
Yes, as long as you're linking. So what I would probably do is I would have a section on your homepage about hypnotherapy, and then I would just write a very brief summary of what's on your actual page for hypnotherapy, and then say, recent blog post, new research shows that whatever, or, like something that is interesting. Your goal again is to not write it for search engines, but to like make it so that if I was like a potential client and I'm interested in hypnotherapy, I'd be interested in reading that article. So if there's new research, like the new research usually comes with hope. And so that would be what you'd want to emphasize, is not like, I don't know, is there new research? What recent research can you tell me about hypnotherapy?
I'd have to ask the hypnotherapist. I haven't, I'm sure, one that teaches.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, that's it. But it's not Marie with expertise. That's
key what you just said there. You'd have to talk to the hypnotherapists. Because, I mean, you know more about hypnotherapy than I do, but the therapists that actually do the hypnotherapy, they know the concerns that their clients have, right? So, so one of the things that I usually recommend when there's a business that has multiple employees is to actually sit down and have like a recorded call with them, and or a recorded talk, and ask the questions that I've been asking you about, like what concerns do people have? What fears do they have? Another good question is, what questions do they have that they couldn't get answered on the web? That's actually what got me into doing stuff on the internet, was because I was a veterinarian years ago.
I do.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, I do.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, and then like people would come to me with the same questions all the time that they couldn't find the answer on the internet, or they found the wrong answer. And so I'm like, okay, I want to put the right answer, or like what I thought was the right answer on the web. So the more you can, Google's documentation on creating helpful content, the very first thing that it says is the information original and insightful? And Google doesn't need another article on how hypnotherapy works. But if you can add something new to the conversation, then that speaks to your topical authority. That's what they want. So, okay. I think this is a tough one, but I think I would actually replace, I think it's fine to have the conditions, but we really want to speak more. Like, on one hand, if I'm coming to this website, I might be like, okay, I have a particular type of anxiety. And then I'm going to click on conditions and be like, do you deal with that? And I got to go through all these things. I think what I might do, and then, okay, then I see anxieties, and then I might, click on that. What might be interesting here, and I think maybe you don't, is to actually have little sections on just a few of the things that you see most commonly. And then again, worded in a way that gives me hope. Okay. I think it's fine. Like it's fine to have this here, but I just kind of wish there was more that spoke directly to me, so that I can look at this and I can go, oh, that's me, and then grab onto it. So a little bit about, you could have all of the section here, and then maybe underneath have a section to say anxiety, like I'm using anxiety as an example, but like the specific, that's probably something you see a lot of, right? Yeah, especially since, do you see a lot more since the pandemic?
Not really. I mean, we've had
we've been anxious.
Pandemic of anxiety for a long time. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think like if you could maybe list 3 or 4 conditions under here, and then maybe get a quote from one of the therapists. That might work. That says, so ask your therapist, what would you say to a potential new client to give them some peace of mind that they should work with you? So I know you got to stay away from like, marketing language, but I do feel like just having those conversations, you can come up with just a very brief sentence like anxiety. I'm struggling because I don't know because I don't speak to people about anxiety. So, but that makes sense, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I think we'll finish up a bit here because we've been going for a while. But oh yeah, this video, the sound. There's something weird with the sound.
I'll look into it.
Yeah. And I know I felt afterwards I was a little critical of your video. I would love to have another video that is like you and me talking, like that you're talking not about what psychotherapy is, not about like what the business is, but that you're just like speaking to me. I think that would say wonders. The new technology that is behind Google's language models, and I shouldn't say language models, machine learning systems with Gemini 1.5 is multimodal, which means that it can understand video. Now, I'm fairly certain that when Google indexes pages or sees changes on pages, that they actually look at the video as well. And they pull the concepts out of the video. So those things that we were just saying, like what you would say to me to put me at ease, to make me feel like this is a comfortable place, a safe place. I could see you doing that in the video. I think the point of this video is to show people that you're nice people, that I would be comfortable talking to. All right. Well, I mean, there's more we could say. Oh yeah, I had to laugh at this because I was like, this guy does not look happy, and so I would love to see a different picture here. I don't know if it makes a difference, but just like you know what I'm saying here, right? Like, I think one of the biggest worries if you're going to do like counseling, especially couples counseling, is people are worried that like it's going to be awful. I'm sure it is unpleasant, sometimes, but there must be times where people smile.
Sure. They laugh, they smile.
Yeah. So I would like to see happy people on here. Same with here it was, the couples counseling. They look like they're not having a good time. Okay, yeah, and then here's your therapist. I really would move this up higher because I think it's one of the decision factors. It would be for me. If I was coming to see you, I would go through every one of your therapists and I would picture who I would feel comfortable talking to. And it's awful because you can't judge a book by its cover, but we do as people. Where I want to know that I want to feel comfortable that. And then I did like one of those other sites. You could have a few more words under here about like what types of conditions you help people with, or whether you work with a particular type of person or couples or adults or children, something like that.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah. I thought this was fine to have on here. It would be interesting. Another client I'm working with just started using a tool called Microsoft Clarity.
Oh yeah.
Do you have Clarity?
In life or in? Sorry, no, I don't have Microsoft Clarity on the site anymore. I used to. We removed the screen.
Yeah, I mean, there's issues potentially with it. It can slow the site down, and also it's kind of creepy that you're like tracking people.
Exactly.
That could be something that's important to you. So I don't know if you want to use it, but the reason why I said it is that you can, well, that you can tell if people are actually scrolling down and reading these things. I actually wanted to click on these. I wanted to know, this would be interesting to maybe write an article about each of these. You probably already have information on it. I was really interested in like, okay, how does this work? Like, I don't know what Eastern versus Western therapies are. And that was really interesting to me. So I would maybe make these clickable and just write a brief, a blog post would be fine
Sure.
to explain those. You don't have to do it for every single one, like convenient location. Actually, you could link that to pictures of your clinic, pictures of your parking lot. Or maybe that's not good. Maybe you don't have like the best parking lot, but just pictures that would make people feel like it's a safe and comfortable place to be.
Yeah, that we can do.
Yeah. All right. I think that's probably a good place to end here. Unless you had other, let me see here. Oh yeah, your blogs. I think we're almost at the end. Yeah, there we go. At the end. I think you have a good site. And I think the fact that you're ranking like number 3 for that main keyword that we looked at shows me that Google's not suppressing you. Years ago we talked about penguin and panda, and today, if you can rank in the top 5 organically, then there's nothing suppressing you. You're just not the top choice. And that's encouraging. Sorry,
I hear what you're saying and I completely understand. You probably don't remember, but one of the keywords we looked at when I did engage with you many moons ago was counselling Melbourne.
Okay, yeah.
We were spot 1 for a number of years. But ever since we got penalised 10 or 12 years ago, whatever it was, we haven't even budged from page 3 for that. But I hear you. I mean, for other ones, like Melbourne.
Let me just see. We'll see what we can tell. Share this tab. All right. And then we've got. It always is annoying when an exact match domain is ranking it, because that's still.
We can't do that. Yeah.
I should mention that we're due for a core update, like apparently any day now. And Google has said that the March core update was they said it was an evolution in how they understood the helpfulness of content. And then like we saw a few sites get impacted, but like I didn't see a whole lot of sites. I saw some kind of jump up, but I didn't see this thing that Google sort of said to us was they implied that they could understand helpfulness on the page level. And I think that's going to happen with the next core update. So it might be that all these things that we look at, the reason why I'm saying this is if this is ranking well because of its exact match domain, then that type of thing should get less and less important as Google brings in more signals. And where are you? Counseling help, Melbourne counseling. Yeah, you're right. You're nowhere.
No. But like I said, we were spot 1 for years.
Can I find you if
there we are, map?
You have 2 sites, right?
No.
That's not you?
No. We're the second one there.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. So the fact that you came up when I searched specifically for Bayside really makes me feel that it's not a suppression. Now I'd have to look in more detail. I don't think, like, the thing that we always kind of were looking at was, well, had it been abused for SEO reasons? Like, I think you had links that had that as the anchor text because that's what worked, right? So, and then we had this theory back in the days of Penguin. Yes, you could be suppressed for particular keywords. It was like, but then I think my theory was that, well, those were helping you and now they're just not helping you. It's not that Google didn't penalize you. It's just that, and let's see here. Oh, and it is your homepage. You do have counseling on here. Is there?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I would do is I would change this wording. Again, to really speak to the hopes of the person who's seeking out counseling and address the fears, which is hard to do in like just a couple of sentences. But again, what I would do if we had more time is picture that you're telling me that I want to come to you for counseling, tell me in just a few sentences. Actually, go ahead and do it. Like, tell me what would I expect if I came for counseling?
A safe, private, confidential space where someone will listen and perhaps hear something that you don't hear yourself say when you speak, and try to provide you some insights and maybe some guidance. And
There you go. Exactly those words. Put those words there. And because to me, this is a negative sentiment, what's written here. I see conflicts, buried issues. I mean, stopping me from living life to the full. It's more geared towards the negative, where what's really important to the person who wants counseling, what's most important to their intent is the positive. I don't want to be in that negative. I want to be in that place. I want it to be counseling that's going to change my life. It's going to transform me. I want to have the hope that I'm not just this angry guy, like sharing my stuff and somebody's listening. I'm like, I always use the word enjoy, which I know the counseling is not always enjoyable, but what you just said, all the stuff that you just said, I would like condense that into 1 or 2 sentences and put that there. Then what I would do, okay, so let's look at your, yeah, I don't think we have time to go through all of this, but I would really rewrite these pages as if you were talking to me, and I would put a video on them. I would just get yourself in front of a camera and pretend you're talking to somebody who's coming for counseling. Just tell them what they can expect, and you know, whatever you can say about like likelihood of them improving, whatever. Just give them hope.
Yeah, got it.
Good. Well, I think that went well. That was
Yes.
a good call. Okay. Well, I'm going to end the video here then. And Adam, if you have any questions, just reach out to me and we'll. I do think that just some wording changes can make a difference. Other stuff we could get into, like if we want to do more work later on, is talk about internal links. You do have good internal links, but this is one of the things that I want to test in my theory is that, okay, let's say you want to be known for counseling that is effective, that is compassionate, that, you know, is comfortable. Those words in the anchor text of the internal links that point to this page.
Okay.
So instead of just saying we offer counseling with an internal link to this page, say we offer compassionate counseling and link the words compassionate counseling. I think the internal links are like labels for your pages. And so if Google is looking to meet people's intent, there's many pages that talk about counseling, but somebody who talks about I'm saying compassionate counseling, like, you know, what the, like, narrow it down to just a few words that describe what the intent of the searcher is, and then use those as your internal links. And then again, the whole idea of topical authority is like, you know, build blog posts around those components. Like if people are worried about it being too conflicting, like say for marriage counseling, like it being too argumentative or whatever, well, then you write a blog post about how marriage counseling can be, you know, a good experience. You know, you said people laugh and people, it's not always, you can say it, it's not always easy, but, and then tell me like things that would make me not be terrified to go.
Yeah, like whether the therapist is going to side with the, you know, whatever, one of them, something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. I would say that's like, I would imagine that's probably one of the biggest fears, right? So, so you're trying to ease people's fears.
Yeah, understand.
Now, I'll just end with this on what to expect if you make changes. It's possible that you can see changes like within a couple of weeks, if not even just like a day or two. I told you about that CBD site, you know, like it's possible that the systems can figure out like, oh, wow, this page has changed and it's relevant to intent, and then you rank better. But in some cases, you might need to wait till another core update happens.
I understand
And
that.
if we have one in the next couple of weeks, like I think we're going to, you might need to wait till the next one before Google has like reassessed and understood the concept of, the concepts that are up on your site.
No worries.
So you'll need to be a little bit patient, probably.
Yeah, I'm used to it.
Yeah, yeah, you've waited a long time, right? Gosh, this has been a while. You've been doing SEO for a long time.
Mm.
Good. Well, thank you for doing this.
Marie, that's great.
Yeah, it was really good to talk to you face to face.
Yes.
So, all right, all the best then, Adam. I'll send you this recording most likely tomorrow.
Okay. So will you send it as an audio file or?
Yeah, it's going to be both. It's going to be a video,
Okay.
and then also the transcript.
Ah, cool.
Transcript will be like buggy. It'll have all sorts of misspellings, and I talk too fast, and you're Australian, so it's gonna struggle with both of us.
My accent will break the technology. Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
And then you can take the transcript, and if you want, I can give you some prompts to use if you want to throw it into some AI tools. So I like, you can just say, what are 10 action points for Adam based on this conversation? What are 10 things we recommended changing? Make a prioritized list, and it should do it. For you. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Good. All right. We'll talk again sometime, I'm sure.
No doubt. Thanks a lot, Marie.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.